Send the Lord, the blessed gospel light, let it shine, from shore to shore, send the Lord.
I'm Jim Dearman, and it is a great privilege for me to be here today with two men for whom I have tremendous amount of respect and love for them and their love for the kingdom and the work that they have done over the years in so many ways to contribute to the cause of Christ. And today, we're here to talk about a specific work in which both of these men are involved. I'm talking about Ron Gilbert and Barry Gilreath Jr. And the work about which we will be talking today is International Bible Teaching Ministries. It's a mission work that was started by Ronald Gilbert back in 2007. And the Rock Valley Church of Christ in Tompkinsville, Kentucky, oversees this work. That's the sponsoring congregation. It's a work in which we at the Dunlap Church, where I'm privileged to serve as one of the elders, we are involved financially with this work and could not be happier to be associated with this work. And I think you'll also see why we're so happy to be associated with it as you learn more about it. And that's the purpose of our visit together with these two good brethren, is to convey to the audience who may not be familiar with this work just what it is all about. It's a mission effort reaching many souls with the gospel of Christ. It's helping to train faithful gospel preachers around the world. It's supported by churches of Christ, of course, across the country and churches around the world. And here's something you don't want to lose sight of that is so very important. It's a multi-faceted approach to world evangelism. And you'll see more about what we mean by that as we get into our conversation. So, brethren, very good to have you here and to be able to give our audience here some information about IBTM. I know there are four main areas to the mission work, and Ronald, will start with you and let you expand on what at least two of these areas are.
All right, I want to talk about, first of all, preacher training. We're very much involved in training faithful gospel preachers around the world. We have established 6 preacher training schools in Africa, and we work with 7 others. So there's a total of 13 preacher schools that we're working with. These men are doing a great job training faithful gospel preachers over there. Last year, we had over 200 men to graduate from those preacher training schools. And over the past 14 to 15 years, they have reported over 34,000 baptisms. They're doing a great work training gospel preachers. We also started a distance learning program because we couldn't get all the preachers that applied enrolled in the few schools that were there. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the reasons we started new schools, and we started this distance learning program, International College of the Bible. And we have over 500 students enrolled from several nations around the world that we're training. We have some men that volunteer as teachers that help train faithful gospel preachers through the internet. And then we provide resource material to the various churches in Africa and the preacher schools. We try to print about 200,000 gospel tracts a year. I've got some with me here. Some of them are in English. Some are in various languages that we work with, local languages. We print booklets, all types of booklets to help the individuals and the congregations. This is a songbook that we printed in the local language there of Tonga to help the brethren. Preacher sermon outline books. We've got several of those that we do. And we also provide Bibles. This is a New King James Bible that we buy in bulk and we get for about $2.60 and ship to Africa. We try to send funds so they can do gospel meetings. There have been thousands of folks obeyed the gospel during those gospel meetings. We have helped build several church buildings for the brethren over there. And we're just always trying to get library books and other things in their hands to help them with the resources they need to preach the gospel in their area.
How are the preachers who graduate from your schools, how are they supported to do their work?
Most of the areas that we work in, the guys are farmers, and they just farm and support themselves that way. We don't have the preachers on payroll. We help support the guys that teach at the preacher schools, but we don't put the preachers on payroll. They're supporting themselves and doing a good job of it.
Well, that's a very important point. Not that there's anything wrong with supporting preachers on the field, but this is so cost effective for one thing, but also motivationally speaking, you don't run into the potential for someone being motivated to come to your schools to be trained so they know they're going to be supported financially. The incentive is truly love for the truth and a desire to reach lost souls. And I think that's a very important aspect of this work. We're going to talk to Barry Gilreath Jr. now, and you're going to tell us about a third area of the work, and that's the Bible Correspondence Course program.
Well, of course, the mission that we have in the Great Commission is to go into all the world and preach the gospel. And certainly that is going to be a difficult task to do if we're not willing to use some of the modern methods and means that we have today. And one of those means that we have is through the written page. And so International Bible Teaching Ministries has developed over the years, also in conjunction with a work that was known as Truth for the World, have developed some Bible correspondence courses. And these courses are available all over the world. One way is through the internet. And so there are students who take these courses online. But also, in addition to that, we are still involved in sending out through the postal system. And over the years, there have been over 51,000 Bible correspondence courses that have been initiated that people have been involved with at various times. And this is covering 198 nations. So, by using these means, we're able to do some things that maybe the Christians in the first century weren't able to do. They didn't have maybe the technology. They didn't have the modern press. But we're able to do this. There are over 160 faithful Christians who are involved in the grading of these courses. So International Bible Teaching Ministry encompasses a lot of resources, including, as I said, faithful members of the church who volunteered to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. And of course, there are books. I've got a couple of examples here of a test book as well as a workbook if someone is taking it through the mail. Mm-hmm. And so there are 15 lessons in each of these little booklets. Right now we have 6 of these, 6 courses that one can go through, but we are developing additional studies as well, because once someone goes through all the way through, they want to continue their Bible study. It's so important that they have those opportunities. Now, another thing that I'll mention, just to kind of tag on to what Ron said, is it is so important that they have these tools. Living in America today, we think about how Bibles are so plentiful. I mean, most any household is going to have at least one, but probably multiple copies. And we're accustomed to getting literature, anything we want. But we've got to remember that in most of the world, these resources are not available to them. Mm-hmm. And so through printing these materials, printing tracts, printing Bible correspondence courses, and sending them over to these folks, this is a blessing that we can't even begin to imagine. Right. I think about a few years ago when I was on one of the mission trips there in Africa with Ron. And as we would travel around in the van, and we were going to a location maybe to do some preaching, we would take tracts with us. And we would actually throw these tracts out as we're driving along the road when we would come to an inhabited area, maybe a little village. It is amazing to see the response that you would get. People would come running out of behind a bush or from their little hut, just running as fast as they could in order to get hold of one of these little tracts. Yeah. And you think about if we did that here in the States, we'd probably get fined for littering.
Oh, yeah.
But over there, it's perceived as something that's wonderful because they've never had these things before.
Well, I remember years ago, and I've had the privilege of going on some mission trips to Africa and other places. My good friend Rod Rutherford, with whom I had traveled some, and Ron and I have traveled together overseas some too. But I remember a statistic he cited a long time ago about a tract. He said over there in these areas, one tract that is given out will be read by at least 12 people before it's finally discarded or that's a pretty impressive statistic. Absolutely. And it illustrates the hunger that you've just described that people have there for this, for the truth. Now you mentioned mission trips, and that's the fourth aspect of this work. And this is such an important aspect because people will say, okay, you're sending all this material and so forth and training preachers, but are you doing effective follow-up? Because they want to know about follow-up. And that's why this is a multifaceted work that is impressive from that standpoint, because you do have that fourth aspect, which I think is very, very important. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we have constant contact with the preacher schools that we're involved with. I know Ron gets correspondence even on a daily basis from instructors and from others who are working in the field, but also we're on the ground, and a couple of times a year, several times a year, there'll be maybe a campaign, evangelistic campaign that'll be taking place, and we'll be a part of that. And I know that this is one of the things that really excited me about the work, especially in Africa, is when I would go and take part in that. I was a supporter of International Bible Teaching Ministries and raised funds for International Bible Teaching Ministries before I ever became a part of it in an official sense. And I would make these mission trips, and it is something to behold. I remember a few years ago, I went into the country of Malawi, and Ron had asked that we go over and do a campaign there. My wife and I, we were there. And we had over 5,000 people who traveled by foot, camped out. And when we think about gospel meetings today, a lot of times we think about, well, you're going to go maybe a Sunday through Wednesday at night, 1 hour, and that's the meeting. Not there. You're talking about days in which people will sit sometimes on a rock, sometimes on a piece of wood, sometimes on the ground. Days in which they will just sit and listen to sermon after sermon after sermon, beginning in the morning, going all the way up into the evening, because they are so hungry to hear about the Word of God. We're doing good if we can even get members of the church sometimes to attend meetings, but over there, I've related it sometimes like the way it would have been in the Restoration movement. You didn't have the TVs to distract you. You didn't have ball practice, and so people were so focused upon religious matters, things of importance. That's the way it is in part of the world today.
Well, there's a tremendous hunger that you've just described, but the beauty of this work is that it satisfies that hunger in a way, to me, that is extremely effective and very complete in its approach. And I think brethren should be excited about participating in this work.
And let me just mention this real quickly about those meetings that we've had. Over the years, beginning from 2007 up until present, there have been over 34,617 baptisms. There have been over 32,066 individuals restored. Over 746 new congregations have been established over the years through this work. I've looked at this work, and of course, I'm just speaking from my opinion. In my opinion, I don't know of any other mission work, though there are many great mission works. I don't personally know of any other mission work right now in which so much is being accomplished with so little. There were over 101 congregations, new congregations, established through the work of International Bible Teaching Ministry, the schools, the preachers who have been involved with this. Over 101 new congregations established just last year. Over 7,300 baptisms just last year. And you know, the potential is just awesome. It's great. And that's why I'm excited personally about being a part of this work.
And your work, your aspect of the work is overseen by the Jackson Heights Church
in Florence, Alabama.
Very
Yes.
fine congregation there. And of course, Rock Valley,
Yes.
long time involvement with Ron. And as I said, the Dunlap Church, where I serve as one of the elders, we're privileged to support the work. And I just think I totally agree with what you've just said about your assessment of it. I know of no other work that has the impact that this work has in terms of reaching souls through this multifaceted approach. I know you need and can use more funds to do even more, Ron, so why don't you wind us up by telling us just what those needs consist of?
That's true. We need funds for printing tracts, booklets, correspondence courses, Bibles. One of the big expenses in that is the shipping. We pay through the post office, it's about $6 a pound. And we have some independent companies that we can send through, and we've been sending some containers, and that's been a big help. But we need brethren, individuals, and congregations to help us with this great work. We take this work very seriously. The Great Commission to go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature is very, very important, and we need your help. There'll be some addresses at the end. We'd encourage you to consider putting us in your budget or helping us with a one-time contribution. There'll be also some contacts you can get in touch with us if you need more information. If you'd like for one of us to come and do a presentation at your congregation and talk about the work, we'd be more than happy to do that. So please consider helping us in this great work.
Thank you, brethren. Appreciate your time and appreciate the great work that you are doing. And we at Dunlap are excited and honored to have a small part in it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to learn about the multifaceted work of International Bible Teaching Ministries. We hope this video has inspired you to join us in spreading the Word of God across the globe. If you would like to learn more about our organization and how you can help, please visit our website at ibtministries.org. If you have any questions or would like to speak with someone directly, please feel free to contact us. Ronald D. Gilbert can be reached at P.O. Box 49494 in Cookeville, Tennessee, 38506, or by email at rdg@ibtministries.org. Barry Gilreath can be reached at 104 Moss Cove in Florence, Alabama, 35634, or by email at jamesbg2@yahoo.com. Once again, thank you for watching and for your interest in the multifaceted work of International Bible Teaching Ministries.